January 2019. What a way to kick off the new year. New York legislators have passed a bill seeking to preserve access to abortions and removing abortion from the state's criminal code. This isn't a cheerful moment, people. In accordance with the bill, no longer could the doctor be held criminally liable of the fetal termination. In fact, if the fetus does die as a result of an assault on a woman, there would be no prosecution. Further, abortions could be performed after 24 weeks in the event that the fetus was not viable or if it's necessary to protect the life of the mother. It also obliterates the time limit on abortion up to the moment of birth and well into the third trimester. Lastly, it allows for physician assistants, nurse practitioners, and midwives to perform abortions, as opposed to, say, an actual doctor person. The passing of this bill was received with a standing ovation on the Senate floor in New York. And as I said, this is not a standing ovation, cheerable moment, even if you agree with abortion. The loss of any life is a goddamn shame. A few days later, Virginia Democrats proposed a near-identically themed bill that would loosen restrictions on access to late-term abortion, in particular reducing the number of doctors signing off from 3 to 1. And widening the net of availability for any medical reason, including detriment to the mother's health, mental or physical. During the committee inquiry of the bill, questions were asked with regards to how close to the end of the pregnancy the bill allowed for abortions.
So how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
You know, it's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking
point.
if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
This clip has since sparked a host of debates across the nation and the internet, people arguing from both sides of the issue, vehement in their respective moral outrage and virtues. The justifications for such a late-term procedure include the health of the mother being in jeopardy, as I've mentioned, fetal abnormalities that could lead to death, and extreme disability. However, on the opposite side of the issue, people argue that in fact there are no medical reasons for a third trimester abortion, that no amount of threat to the mother's life or to the child's warrants aborting a child that would have been viable outside of the mother's womb. And while there can be arguments made on either side on the justification of third trimester abortions, I believe that there is a much larger issue at hand that has yet to be fully embraced. Because even if we are to grant that there may be exceptional circumstances where a third trimester abortion were the best decision to make in the 0.01% of circumstances, the issue that people are having isn't with those instances, at least not in the majority opposition. Where the minority heartbreaking circumstances is occurring, it's with the gaping loophole present in the law that allows for the undefined mental health justification of abortion up to 40 weeks. Over the Twitterverse, a resounding cry of,
"No mother actually wants a third trimester abortion. It's always unfortunate happenstance, a thing that occurs. This is just a silly hypothetical that people have latched onto in an effort to control a woman's reproductive health,"
are ever present. If one more person posts about people getting third trimester abortions because they're tired of being pregnant or mental health, I swear to God, does no one read? Doctors aren't going to perform abortions just because the mom wants one. No one wants a second or third trimester abortion just because. There are devastating stating reasons as to why it would be necessary. Meghan McCain lacks the key word you said, empathy. Empathy, Meghan. Empathy. Look it up. Kill babies. No one is going to wait until the end of the 3rd trimester to decide they won't want their baby. 91% of abortions happen before 13 weeks. This is a protection for rare cases where medical professionals identify health-related issues regarding pregnancy. I don't agree with 3rd trimester abortions, but promise you no one would want to carry a baby for 9 months in their body just to abort it. The legal loophole that allows for the worst, is a giant non-issue to these people. But just because I'm particularly petty at the ignorance of some people on the issue that is the entirely, utterly decrepit state of humanity, let's go through some stories that invariably contradict such nonsense. Amazing what can be found with just a bit of rapid-fire Googling. Let's see, we have the euthanasia reason, where individuals think it's acceptable to abort children they deem to be too much of a burden, who wouldn't presumably make the intellectual cut, who couldn't condone having a child with Down syndrome themselves, but congratulate others for making that effort, without considering the option of giving up the child for adoption. In any case, that's a right. That is a right that women need, absolutely. To get rid of a genetically crippled child because they don't want the burden of having a retard for an offspring. Imagine thinking that you have the right to end someone else's life because you don't want to bother with them because you think they don't meet your own arbitrary standards. Fitting, seeing as how one of the legal loopholes that I will present to you in this video as an example of a hypothetical that could be to the detriment of others and is in fact patently a detriment to others revolves around people not vaccinating their children because they think a child with autism is worse than, I don't know, say, a dead child. But I digress. Then we have by reason of population control. In 2014, a Chinese woman was forced to abort her twins at 9 months due to the imposed one-child policy. She was held down and forced to abort both of her babies. But Weebo, you say, that was in China and the mother wanted the children. A mother can't be legally strong-armed to get an abortion in the States against her will. Au contraire, my friend. In cases of surrogacy, there's a term for a sneaky bit of population control called selective reduction. In one particular case from 2015, the would-be father demanded his surrogate get an abortion of one of the triplets the surrogate carried in her womb, or she would face financial ruin. She did end up carrying all 3 to term, and they all survived, and were all turned over to the father. And granted, this drama all went down before 24 weeks had ever even gotten close. However, the implication remains the same, people. That's just the tip of the iceberg, though. Sometimes, people abort exceptionally late in their pregnancy, even to avoid an awkward situation. In 2012, a woman aborted her baby in the final week of pregnancy due to the fact that the child was the result of a 7-year-long extramarital affair. For that, she was given 8 years of jail time. You know what New York State has been attempting to decriminalize? Yeah, but of course, that's not everything. There's also gender preferences. That justification. Yeah, again, something that is most certainly a common thing in China, but is not restricted to the Orient, you should know. One particular story comes to mind in my research that I found, in which case a couple with 3 kids already had ended up pregnant unexpectedly and were only going to keep the child in the event that that child was a boy as opposed to a girl. Why am I showing you any of these stories? Because people, if all you need is a mental health justification from a single doctor, and then you can have an abortion up until dilation, all of this becomes possible and frankly untriable in a court of law. No one should have the ability to slip through the law and kill an unborn baby for their own personal, petty, and arbitrary reasons. But if you need something more feasible to ignore the reality of, I would so love to oblige you. That's what I'm here for. Because remember, kids,
no mother who carries a baby 3 trimesters or to dilation suddenly decides, nope.
Are you sure about that? Well, over at Weebo Jones Incorporated, we have a plethora of examples of women engaging in postnatal fixes of a variety of immediateness, of unique and heartbreaking experiences for you to peruse at your leisure. Let's get into them. In terms of the more immediate postnatal fixes, we have mothers who abandon their children in garbage cans and parking lots for their own reasons as recently as 2018. Luckily, these children survived, but unfortunately, not every child is so lucky. In 2019, a mother abandoned her full-term child for dead in the bathroom of an Amazon warehouse bathroom trash can. And no, it's not just the laziest methods of murder, negligence, and abandonment that a woman who has carried a baby 3 trimesters to dilation will resort to solve her issue. It's also intentional, blatant, and actual murder in some cases. Or, well, attempted murder, as recently as 2018, when a woman attempted to drown her newborn child in a McDonald's toilet. And if you think it's just during that grace period in a woman's life, immediately after her pregnancy ends, that this is an issue, oof! No das, chica. We have 5-year-olds and toddlers being driven into rivers because mom didn't want anyone else to have them. 7-year-olds drowned by crazy bitches who believe themselves to be saving their own child from a fate worse than death. You say, and you will continue to say that no mother who carries her child to full term would hypothetically actually want to get rid of her child all of a sudden out of the blue at, what, 9 months? How could you be so willfully ignorant living in the world that we do? And while in most cases it might be true that no mother who carries her child 3 trimesters or to dilation actually wants to abort, it wouldn't be something that occurs in all cases. And that's the concern. That's the whole issue, the crux of this entire debacle. If it is about the health of the mother or the well-being of the child, then make it explicit in the wording of the law. None of this non-committal poppycocking around the point nonsense. None of it. It is an unfortunate fact of life that legal loopholes exist, making our judicial system imperfect and abusable in certain instances. However, your job as a legislator is not to be lazy, and it is to encompass all possible instances without leaving those loopholes. Not leaving it up to the whims of the doctor, a hormonally pumped up woman, and her healthcare provider. It's to give them stipulations that they can't abuse for whimsical purposes, that they have to be proactive about, because anything less results in the death of a more than likely potential human. And I'm not sorry about this, but killing otherwise perfectly viable clumps of cells for a less than extreme circumstance is unacceptable. Full stop.
If you like what I'm doing here, feel free to check out the links in the description to my Amazon, Subscribestar, Patreon, PayPal, and the link to my Redbubble store where you can find unique exclusive Weebo merchandise. My P.O. box can also be found below if you'd like to send me stuff in the mail. Also, please consider leaving a like, a comment, sharing the video, and subscribing to the bell for more. If you want to see more of me in a different capacity, I have a second channel called Weebo Incognito dedicated to ripping apart all things entertainment. I do a LARPy comedy stream show called Side Quest over on Magog of Morscar's livestream channel, and I do a bi-weekly stream show called 2 Girls 1 Stream with segments for news, advice, call-ins, fanfiction read-throughs, and more on Some Dumb Americans channel. Links to all that jazz down in the description down below.